I already announced it was coming, but I just haven't talked about any of my upcoming projects. But yeah, I've been just run ragged this week. Haven't been able to. I don't think I uploaded a video last night, at least not a gaming video. Like I uploaded two completely random videos because I felt like I was running behind, but I think they were both like Ricada related or something. Like I thought I had like another video last night that was supposed to go up, but apparently not. Apparently I fell behind. So for that I apologize. One of the things that I really, really wanted to cover over the seriously all year, right? Like for the past 10 days, 11 days, I've been wanting to cover like the Switch 2 thing because this is absurd, right? Like it's like the instant that 2024 hit, ReviewTechUSA and other lying gaming YouTubers have come out with like all these statements about the Nintendo Switch 2 and how it's coming this year and how a bunch of information on it has leaked and stuff like that. Like, four videos in 10 days, right? That is insane for someone who produces one video a day, right? I think he does one a day. Maybe he doesn't do it on the weekends. Maybe he does. I don't know, but it was the same thing last year, which is kind of why I'm upset because last year the narrative was that like Tears of the Kingdom. I don't even think we knew the name of the game back then. That the new Zelda game would be the last game on Nintendo Switch, right? We would get like the Switch 2 by the end of the year or like, immediately after Tears of the Kingdom came out. I think like early on they were trying to say that like it would be a cross-gen release. I think they were trying to come out and say that. I think they said there would be like a better version on the Switch 2. Like I think really early on before that they were saying it was going to be like a next gen exclusive in general, right? Like it had nothing to do with the Switch. So like obviously there's been a lot of cope over the past year. They keep pushing back the dates, Like it wasn't that long ago that they were saying they were going to get like a surprise reveal in like November or something. And then we would get like the console in March, but that's not going to happen. Like right now they're trying to say the Switch 2 is coming out in fall in September specifically. That's 8 months from now and they haven't said anything about it, right? It's not going to happen, I think. Um, I said that like in my last video talking about this that I don't see a Switch 2 coming out this year, but like it theoretically could. Like I guess they could do whatever they want. They have like more than 6 months. They have enough time to promote it and talk about the upcoming games and its features and stuff like that. Like they don't need to wait like 6 months it's going to take to like promote this thing and get people to know it exists and to like sell it to people. I don't see them releasing it in September, right? Like I just don't. It doesn't make any sense to me. Like they're going to sell the brand new Nintendo console right when kids are going back to school. No, like it's not going to happen. Like it's going to be November or March again, right? Like it's not going to be in September. That doesn't make any sense. But like, yeah, this is kind of the point. Like every single time like this happens is that like these people give you the earliest sounding date that sounds somewhat plausible so they can like do their clickbait drama videos and then they kind of like just slowly push the date back. Like I think I don't remember explicitly, but I think they were claiming that like the Switch 2 was coming out in 2022, right? Right? And like just before that, they were saying the Switch Pro was coming, right? So it's like it's a never-ending barrage of things from these people about the state of Nintendo Switch 2, right? Like they're constantly like making up excuses for it. I've seen Arlo release statements about how like the Switch Pro did exist, but they canceled it for because of chip shortage reasons, which is like absurd. That doesn't make any sense at all. Like like there's always some kind of excuse as to like why these leaks are proven incorrect. That's the meme of Emily Rogers, right? That Emily Rogers puts out there is that like, oh, plans change. Like it's just a cope. And thankfully it seems like more people are becoming more aware of what these people are doing, that this is clickbait, that this is like unreliable information. Like they still get like occasionally crack like double their views or whatever, but I'm seeing more and more people push back against like the narrative that this is accurate information or that we can expect a new Nintendo console this year. Like it feels like if the Switch wasn't on the market so long and if there wasn't such a big push to get rid of it, from third parties, like I don't think these rumors would be getting any traction at all. Like it really does kind of feel that way, that they have no momentum behind them. I don't see anybody other than the absolute bottom of the barrel YouTubers talking about this. So let's go ahead and see what ReviewTechUSA has to say.
Wake up, ladies and gentlemen. It's 2024. I'm a man, and Switch 2 news has just dropped. Happy New Year.
Yeah, right at the beginning of the year. Like I said, I wasn't memeing about that. Like the instant the new year dropped, he's talking about Switch 2. Like exactly like he did in 2023. Like unbelievable.
Happy New Year. Happy New Year. Skip it up and that up. So I always start these videos off with something that needs to be said. You need to take everything here with the super, super, super tiny grain of salt.
Yeah. Oh man, if you take this with a grain of salt, that absolves me of all responsibility. Like I don't have to prove what I'm talking about is true, right? I can say whatever I want as long as I say take it with a grain of salt. Emily Rogers did this too, and it was embarrassing even then. Like unbelievable. But okay, let's.
Everyone could be full of crap, or even if they aren't full of crap and they weren't trying to put out misinformation, things happen. Even if they have a legitimate leaker from.
Things happen. You know, we might not get a new Nintendo console this year, but things happen. Yeah. How about this, Rich? How about clickbaiters are going to make things up and then try to justify it? Huh? Like, how about that? How about that?
From within inside Nintendo or whatever the case may be, maybe they got the information wrong. So until Nintendo says anything, it's interesting to talk about the rumors, but they have released statements about this. There is no piece of new hardware coming, right? Switch is confirmed to continue to be supported until 2025, right? Like people like this are like coping and seething, like, oh, Switch is going to be off the shelves the instant that March 2025 drops. But no, that's not what's happening, right? Like we already have statements about this, but you're saying they're lying. Okay, like we know there is no new Nintendo console coming in the near future, but you are in denial about that and have been for years. Years. That's all they are. They're just rumors, and that's it. By the way, you should sub to my music and live stream channels.
Nope, never. Nobody's ever going to know you for anything other than video game lies, Rich. You know, they're only going to know you as like the big cheese guy and the guy who kisses cocks on stream. Like you are a parasite. You are one of the worst personalities on gaming YouTube. Like nobody is going to sub to your music channel. Nobody.
Links below in the description. I live stream almost on a daily basis and I make hot fire man beats. God, that does not make the channel sound appetizing. But anyway, links. Go check out my music. Go check out my live streams below in the description. Shameless plug done.
Hand jobs all around.
Well, more leaks are happening now. More rumors. The rumor mill is accelerating with the Switch 2. And like I always say,
the Switch 2 rumor mill, as he calls it, has discredited itself time and time again. Right? There is no taking any of these people seriously. Right? None of these people are reliable. Everything they spout has been nonsense. Like, just trust me, bro. And these YouTubers want you to believe that there's some reliable source of information. They're not. Like, that's what this comes down to, is that they're not reliable. Don't listen to them.
When the rumors start to accelerate, like when you hear that you're about to have massive layoffs at your job, chances are it's true.
Ask me how I know that one. So the first thing I want to talk about is a game has been leaked for the Nintendo Switch, and it will be the Bayonetta trilogy. It will have enhanced graphics. So there's been a couple social media
Leaks? Really? Like, oh, they could release the Bayonetta trilogy with enhanced graphics. Like, Bayonetta 3 just came out, bro. Like, they've been improving it with patches and stuff like that. Like, they don't need to release another version of the game. Like, especially not like one is like perfect the way it is, right? Like, I would be concerned if they like visually upgraded the game that it would like screw with the frame rate and screw with the gameplay or whatever, because it's like perfect the way it is, right? Like, I, I, I don't think those games need to be remade or whatever. Like, there's no reason to put them in a collection. There's no point, right? They're all available on Switch anyway. Like, what's the point?
accounts talking about this, so it kind of raises the credibility, or they could just be echo chambers for each other. But one of the ones that I know,
they're echo chambers. Like, I've seen this play out time and time again. They're just parroting each other.
That some other people that I trust follow is Nash Weedle. I don't know why that took me so long to say, but his original post, I had to have it translated here. This is what it says. Bayonetta will receive a trilogy edition with its 3 main games in one pack for the Switch 2. The games will bring visual HDR confirmed. They are going to do HDR with the next-gen Switch. And performance improvements. Due to backwards compatibility, it can also be played on Switch 2 with improvements. So they're kind of okay. So you could put this in the original Switch and just have the trilogy, which would make sense. I mean, the original Switch game was for 7th gen consoles. Or you could play it on the Switch 2 with the graphical enhancements. I'm liking this. If that is true, and that's just not a rumor, which we just have to just say again, these are all rumors, I like that. That makes parts of me tingle. Now, when will the next-gen Switch be released? It's interesting because from the leakers, we're seeing a couple dates here. It could either be the end of September 2024, or if that is too quick and Nintendo can't get things done in time, they have another placeholder for November 2024.
Yeah, placeholders. Yeah, like, they desperately want to put it out in September, but they could fall behind schedule. Like, a corporation like Nintendo isn't gonna do that. Like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, if they had a set date, like, they would set the date, right? Like, if they wanted to release it in November, they would just release it in November. If there was any like thought that like something could go wrong, or that there was like, they were falling behind production schedule, like, they would just release it in November. Like, what's this nonsense about like a placeholder date? It sounds like to me that these fake leakers are trying to cover all their bases.
So either in September if things go smoothly for Nintendo, or as a backup they have November 2024. It looks like they really, really, really want to get it out for the holiday season, and I don't blame them, because people will definitely be looking forward to a more powerful piece of hardware from Nintendo by that point. Now,
nobody cares about power, okay? Like, enough. Like, Tears of the Kingdom was one of the most successful games of last year. You are delusional if you think people go out and buy gaming hardware based on their power, because that is observably not true. Like, that is nothing but a cope from PC gamers who don't play games. Okay, you are just deluding yourself. Like, nobody buys hardware for the power. Nobody buys machines for the specs. It's all about what it can do for you, like its actual functionality. And when it comes to playing games, Nintendo is the absolute best. Okay, like, they do not need to replace Switch this year. They don't need to.
Other leaks came from Soldier Delta, who released screenshots of Team Ninja's Rise of Ronin. Yay. So the credibility of
Hey, wait, that was one of the only good games shown at the Game Awards. Fuck you, Rich.
this guy is kind of all over the place. All of the articles are citing him, but that doesn't make it any more credible. I just need to make that abundantly clear. Everywhere I go, Soldier Delta is in these articles, so every single article could be getting misinformation. Just keep that in mind. Now, this is a rumor that continues to permeate, which I know has people concerned, but as much as I love physical media and backwards compatibility, I've bought 99.9% of my games digitally on my Nintendo Switch, is that there's going to be two models. And the pricing for these two models...
Every single time these guys, like, they do this thing where, like, oh, Nintendo is doing the exact same thing as Sony and Xbox. Like, every single time. When they've never done that, ever. It's such a weird cope. It's such a weird, like, attempt at pretending that Nintendo is behind the times, but...
are as such. For the digital only version of the next gen Switch, it's going to be $400. The cartridge version is going to be
It's not going to be that expensive.
$450. So if you want to have physical media on your Switch, it's going to be $50 more. The other thing too, the OLED screen. This has been talked about for a while with the next gen Switch initially anyway. For cost reasons, it's going to go away. They are not going to...
Wow. Is he still salty about the OLED? Because like, if you don't know, when the OLED was getting ready to come out, people like Rich were like foaming at the mouth, like, oh, it's gonna be the Switch Pro. We've been hyping up this entire time, and no, it was a hardware revision. It wasn't like, it just had the OLED screen. And like, ever since then, he's just been coping and seething about the OLED screen. You know, like, I know he said like the Steam Deck is better than it and stuff like that. Like, he is salty about the OLED existing because it proves something that I think a lot of people like weren't willing to accept, is that like, Nintendo can just put out hardware revision to the Switch with minor revisions and get a lot of sales out of that. You know, the OLED being, you know, having a more ergonomic design, having like some quality improvements, having like a better screen, like better battery life, like those were all things that were like appealing to certain people, right? The OLED is the best selling version of the Switch now, right? And keep in mind, when that thing came out, it was like, everyone was really pushing this idea that it was like going to be a failure, that it was going to be a bomb, and that it wasn't what they wanted. But in reality, it was like a roaring success. And people are still coping about that. People are coping about the fact that Switch is successful in general, right? Right. The cope lately has been that. The cope lately has been that like next gen is here and that like Switch can't compete, but that's clearly not happening, because otherwise Tears of the Kingdom wouldn't have done as well as it did. Otherwise Hogwarts Legacy wouldn't have done as well as it did on Switch. Like, Hogwarts Legacy was like outright sabotage with like its late release date, and it still did reasonably well on the console. Like, the idea that Switch is like bombing or becoming irrelevant is laughable. It's not true at all.
Have an OLED screen, at least on the launch next-gen Switch, which is codenamed NG, because they're looking to save some money, because it's going to be more expensive to make the next-gen Switch because it's more powerful hardware with newer tech inside of it. One of the things we can hope for, but it's Nintendo, I doubt it, is that this next-gen display has 120 hertz refresh rate. That would be nice, but that would also mitigate on battery power. I don't see Nintendo doing that. I just see them giving us a nice, solid, clean 1080p IPS panel. Maybe it'll be HDR capable. I mean, they're saying, this is a rumor again, that the Bayonetta trilogy will have HDR on the Switch 2. So that would be nice, but OLED is out of the question. We can hope for 120 hertz refresh rate on the next-gen Switch screen, but I'm just thinking a 1080p, 60 hertz, nice, clean IPS panel for cost reasons, and on top of it for battery life reasons. The higher refresh rate would suck into the battery, and that would turn off people to Nintendo's next console. But the display will be 8 inches, so I'm thinking it's going to be 1080p, 8-inch, 60 hertz display. That's it. If we get anything extra, great, but I highly doubt it. Now, someone else released some other specs here. Credibility behind them, don't know. Nintendo Switch.
So he's not even like verifying these people. Like he's not like investigating their backgrounds or their history or like what other information they've released. He's just like throwing everything at the wall, hoping something negative will stick. Like, oh, it's not going to have an OLED screen. Okay, but where's your evidence, right? Like, oh, it's going to be a more powerful console. Where's your evidence for that? Like, oh, we're getting a Nintendo Switch. Where's your evidence for that? Like, it's all just a bunch of hearsay from like randos on Twitter, like on X. I'm sorry, excuse me. There is Twitter is a dead platform. Like it's all just complete, it's like it's like he's completely just making everything up, like because he is. That's basically what he's doing.
Switch 2 possible specs: DLSS 3.1, 12 gigabytes of RAM.
These are all just buzzwords, by the way. They don't mean anything.
Ray tracing. We did hear this before from more credible sources that there was a closed door demo of the Matrix 5 tech demo running on the Nintendo Switch, and DLSS helped with that. They showed an updated, smoother version, higher res version of Breath of the Wild. And they also showed off the Final Fantasy VII Remake running on the Nintendo.
No, they didn't. Like, 100% guarantee you that's not true. Because, like, Square Enix would never, ever put anything on a Nintendo hardware, right? Like, their entire mission statement is to sell PlayStations. Like, they've talked about this in corporate meetings and stuff like that. Like, they are outright trying to sell PlayStations. Like, they are never going to put mainline, like, important Final Fantasy releases on Nintendo hardware for this reason. And it's shocking to me that how, like, so many people like Rich delusionally believe it's because of hardware power. No, it's because of, like, their partnership with Sony. Same with Tekken, same with, like, a bunch of other major developers right now.
Switch 2 hardware. So now I've heard other rumors too that the Nintendo Switch 2 is going to be only as powerful as a base PlayStation 4, which would be disastrous. Then I hear more sensible things that it could be as powerful as an ROG Ally.
Nobody cares about the power. Okay? Like, you need to stop with the whole power thing. Like, power doesn't make games better.
Which to me would make more sense, especially because it's going to be a dedicated console from Nintendo. They could push more out of the hardware than you can with just a PC with gamepads attached to it, which is what all of the other consoles are. Those gaming PCs, those ROG Ally, the Lenovo Legion Go, even the Steam Deck, which is the most consoleized because it runs its own special OS. You can't do the same thing you could do with a console because it's specific hardware. Developers know they only have one kind of hardware they need to develop the game for, and they could push more out of it. So if it's as powerful as an ROG Ally, you're going to get some pretty banging performance out of the Switch 2. I've also heard it's as powerful as a Series S or even more so, but I think that's pushing it. I can believe that it's as capable as an ROG Ally, and I would be happy with that. So that makes the most sense to me. So leave your thoughts in the comment section below. Usually I don't say that, but I'm interested. Do you think
I think you're a liar, Rich. I think you need to go out and get a real job. You know, I think you need to shut your fat face and start playing some actual video games. Okay? Like, I am tired of listening to you ramble about complete nonsense every time you need to get some clicks for your videos, right? That is completely deplorable. Okay, like, complete joke. So that was like a week ago, and that video is already outdated. Yeah, I think a lot of the stuff he talked about in that video has already been denounced in favor of, like, the new narratives. But yeah, we'll see what Rich has to say.
It's Review Nintendo Switch 2 news. I'm here to give you the news, and also I'm here to tell you about my other channels. I have a live stream. Check them out. They're awesome.
Yeah, I think going forward, we're going to skip through the promotions for his other channels because I'm not watching
Check
them.
them out. Shameless plug done. So a whole
Okay.
bunch of leaked info yesterday was dropped. About
Even he's doing like
Switch.
even he is doing the leaked thing now. Like even he doesn't believe this. Holy crap! Like he doesn't believe his own bullshit. That's crazy. Wow.
Again, take it with a grain of salt. Even if the people are reputable that are leaking this information, where they got the information from, even if it's from a legitimate insider, they could be wrong too. So who the hell knows? It's interesting to speculate and to look back at all this like a year later after the
Or you could talk about the games that are coming out this month, right? You could talk about Trace Memory. You could talk about like Prince and Persia, right? That's like one of the highest rated Ubisoft games in a long time, right? You could talk about like Mario versus DK coming out like next month, right? You know, Princess Peach, you know, got some new information dropped this week. Like there are things you can talk about, Rich.
console comes out and to see what was accurate and what wasn't accurate, because some stuff is true, some stuff misses the mark. It's always the way it is when a new console launches. Well, we found out some more information about the Switch 2 today, and I think I have a booger in my nose. That is disgusting. I'm a professional, I swear. Anyway, back to the video. Well, we found out some more information about the Switch today, and I guess this is put out to temper people's expectations. And the Switch 2 is going to be considered an iterative upgrade, not a revolution like the Switch was, which I expected. I didn't want them to turn the Switch into a butt plug. I didn't want them to turn it into a bird. I just want a more powerful Switch. So this, to me...
Yeah, because you have no imagination at all, Rich. Right? The issue now is that, like, people genuinely seem to think that like Nintendo isn't gonna be able to innovate on the Switch. Like they legit believe that Nintendo isn't going to like make a new console that's completely different than the Switch and have it be successful. Like they're just asking for more of the same, right? This is the same kind of nonsense that led to people like this like complaining about the Wii all day. And the Wii U is like, oh, we just wanted more of the same. Like, okay, but then you wouldn't have bought it, you know? Like it's just like, yeah, never take these people seriously. Like, never take them seriously.
Me is good news. Anyway, this comes from Video Games Chronicle. I'll read it to you, then we'll discuss.
Yes, this is the cucumber guy.
The Nintendo Switch successor will launch this year. I forgot it's not 2023 anymore, and will likely be an iteration of the current hardware design rather than a revolution.
I think, doesn't that imply that it's just a hardware revision? That it's just like a slightly new model, like the OLED 2 or something, not like a new platform? Like, doesn't that go against like everything he's been saying so far? Like, it's interesting how they'll never bring up the possibility that like they might just do a slight revision to the Switch.
A lot of people are making a big deal about this, but I kind of expected. Anyway, continuing on. This is according to Dr. Serkan Toto. I've actually quoted this guy before. CEO.
Yeah, Toto is a joke. Don't take him seriously.
Based games industry consultancy Kantan Games, who contributed his forecast to the 2024 Games Industry Biz Annual Analyst Predictions feature. So, again, I know this guy's part of the industry. I've used him as a source before, so this isn't just coming out of nowhere, but let's continue here. According to Kantan Games' Toto, the console could launch at $400, and then there's also where there'll be $450 for the Switch 2 that will allow you to use physical games. Don't know why I had to do extra takes to say that, but I did. So there's going to be a $400 digital-only Switch, a $450 Switch where you could put physical games in. That seems to be a persistent rumor.
Okay, first of all, like, nobody takes game analysts seriously, okay? Like, I know I rag on YouTubers specifically, but the reason why YouTubers, like, blew up the way they did initially was because people thought they would be more credible than, like, people actually in the industry. You know, from the IGNs, from the game analysts, like, people like Michael Pachter. Like, we know these people are bought and paid for to say certain things about certain companies in order to, like, shill for other ones, right? Like, that is what these people's real jobs are. Like, their job isn't to like accurately predict the future of what Nintendo is going to do. Like, their job is to like sell certain companies to investors, essentially. And a big part of that is it does involve downplaying Nintendo, right? That is a major part of what they do. And it's strange to me that like Rich hasn't picked up on this. Like, when was the last time you heard anyone talk about Michael Pachter, right? Like, he was a big relevant thing, like in the aughts, right? Like, oh, Nintendo is doomed; they won't be able to compete. Like, he was a major figure in that sphere for a long time, but then he became a meme, and everyone stopped talking about him. But he still kept doing his thing. Like, he still has a show, right? Like, he's still like relevant in his sphere, but like the issue being that like much like Anita, he became such a meme that like his propaganda didn't really impact the actual community all that much.
Rumors, so there has to be, or probably is, I should say, some truth to it. But continuing on, he also goes on to say there's a chance that the games could adopt the $70 pricing, which, since Nintendo is already doing that, they will. Tears of the Kingdom was $70, so I assure you that games will adopt the $70 price across the board for Nintendo, because...
Well, Pikmin 4 wasn't, though. Like, I think I think they're gonna have price points for different games, right? It's not just like, here's the thing about the $70 price tag. It's not working. The thing is, like, $70 is too much for like mediocre games, and people are like bouncing, right? And I think Nintendo actually does have a major advantage by selling games at like 50 or $60, right? Like, I think they are going to remain slightly more affordable than the competition for the foreseeable future. Like, I see no reason for them to up the prices to $70. By the way, I actually didn't pay $70 for Tears of the Kingdom because I had it pre-ordered. Like, and like Amazon honored my pre-order. So like I made out like a bandit in that regard. I don't think I've ever paid $70 for a Switch game. Yeah, I canceled my pre-order for Mortal Kombat 1 on Switch. That was like for $70. So yeah, like it's a third-party thing right now. Nintendo doesn't seem to have done it. Like, Princess Peach isn't $70. Like, it seems like for their super hardcore like hype games they'll do it, but like for like average releases it hasn't happened yet.
If their competitors can do it, why can't they? But here's where things get interesting, and I think a lot of people are going to misconstrue what Serkan Toto is saying. And I'm quoting here: "The time is finally here for a Switch successor. It's been here. Nintendo has just sat on their asses because they were making a bunch of money off the Switch." But let's continue.
So, like, why, if they're making money off their Switch, if they're successful, why would they be in a rush to release a new console, right? Like, why would they do it? Like, what is their reasoning for it? Like, don't try to tell me, oh, the third-party games, because what third-party games? Like, what is coming out that can't run on Switch? Hogwarts Legacy was the biggest game last year, and it got a Switch port, right? There is no reason, none, to upgrade the Switch right now. Like, absolutely none. Like, I legit think this console has like 6 years more in it. Like, it's going to be on the market for a very long time.
Even though I could say a Pro model actually did exist and certain developers were already working with the dev kit, I believe the next hardware will drop in 2024 for $400. We've all talked about that. There is a high chance that games will cost $70. Now, it goes on here. This is where things get more interesting. This is me quoting right from Video Games Chronicle. According to the industry consultant, Toto that is, Nintendo's next console will again have portable functionality. Wow! As VGC reported last year. And this is also what Toto says. This is the biggest part of this. The next system is also likely to be an iteration rather than a revolution. Nintendo might add some bells and whistles to the device, but it will be similar to the current Switch. Continuing on, and because there is a Pokemon and Pokemon is associated with handheld gaming, there is no way on earth Nintendo will drop the portability feature of their next big thing, which I am fine with. I don't want a conventional home console from Nintendo. They nailed it out of the park with the Nintendo Switch and it being a hybrid console. No, don't get rid of it. I want the hybridness of the Switch. So this is all good news to me. And if you see here, Switch sales are declining, and I'm sure it's a mixture of it being old, and if people are going to buy the damn Switch, they bought it already, and with there being competitors like the Steam Deck OLED.
How is that declining? Like 2002, 2022. Yeah. Yeah, okay, whatever.
ROG Ally, Lenovo Legion Go, GPD Win.
So you're gonna say that because sales were down for 1 year, that Switch sales were declining, right? I think that was around the point where people were really starting going in hard on this idea that ooh, Switch is gonna be replaced soon, don't buy one, and that's obviously not gonna be the case. So I don't know, we'll see.
iNeo's 675 models they release a month.
Plus, you don't need to sell a lot of hardware when you already have an established user base that's actively using your platform. Yeah, it's normal for sales to go down after the hype period.
I swear to God, it's anyway, this isn't a rant about iNeo. Maybe that's for a different video.
Yeah, they haven't released their new sales numbers yet, so it's possible that it's way higher than we might expect.
But it's time.
There's no way Tears of the Kingdom didn't drive some sales. Mario Wonder didn't drive some sales.
And Nintendo knows that. Now, for people losing their minds thinking that the next Switch is going to be like what the Switch Pro should have been and it's not going to be much more powerful, relax your anuses with that. Look, I always remember this, and I tried to look for the damn quote. I couldn't find it. I'm sure someone here will be like, Rich, I found it in 20 seconds. Well, I'm an idiot and I missed it. Where in the past, before, Shigeru Miyamoto said that going from the NES to SNES was an iterative upgrade. Going from the SNES to the N64 was a revolution because it had revolutionary 3D graphics, quote unquote. But for those of you who were around when we went from the NES to SNES, was it a big jump graphically? Yes. So it doesn't mean that because they're using the word iterative that it's going to be just...
Nintendo didn't use that phrasing, though. That was from the analysts, you retard.
Just a slight bump in performance.
Nintendo has said nothing about their next piece of hardware. Why are you bringing up, obscure Miyamoto quotes? Nobody cares.
It just means that they're just going in the same direction as the current Switch. They're just making it more powerful and fixing the flaws from the current Switch that people complained about. Joy-Con drift, for example.
Joy-Con drift is a non-issue, right? Let's be real. All you have to do when it happens, which is very uncommon, is just send them in and have it repaired. It is a nothing burger, right? I'm not even sure it's common anymore. I haven't had it happen to me in forever. I had to get my older Joy-Cons all sent in, but now that they're back, it hasn't been affecting me at all. So
there's that. Maybe they'll add other features. Maybe they'll make the battery life better, which I would be all for. Like I said in yesterday's video, I believe I said it, if they get the next-gen Switch to be as capable as the ROG Ally, but with Nintendo Switch OLED battery life...
I hope you mean hardware-wise and not sales-wise, because, I don't think the ROG Ally is some big, juggernaut when it comes to hardware sales.
They won. That's all they need to do. And I think that's what they're going to do from what I've been hearing. Hopefully it's more powerful than a base PS4, because that would suck. Anyway, this is Rich of ReviewTechUSA signing out. Have a good one. It's time to talk about some Switch news. And no, I'm not talking about the game of Switch where you take one finger in your mouth and you have one finger in your butthole and then you swap them. I'm talking about the Nintendo...
What? What? Are you serious right now? that is like some Nick Rekieta style like degeneracy. Okay, that is just like what? Huh? Like okay.
Nintendo Switch 2 from Nintendo, their next generation system that's probably coming out, I don't know, but soonish. And there's a lot of rumors, and I'm
Not this year.
excited. Don't I look excited? Skip it up and that up. Hey, by the way, shameless plug. I have 2 other channels. I have a live stream channel where I live stream Monday through Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time called RTU Streams. Link below in the description. And I also make some hot fire, delicious, spicy beats on a music channel. I'll have that link below in the description to it. RTU Streams and my of the Switch. Move on to news. So we know that the Switch 2 is coming. I mean, we knew the Switch 2 was coming when Nintendo released the original Switch. There was rumors of the Switch Pro literally when they dropped the Switch, like major publications.
Yeah, they're doing what they were doing now and like trying to downplay the continued success of the Switch by like hyping up this new hardware, right? Like they keep talking about declining Switch sales, but like you're talking about declining sales of a product that's been on top of the industry for years. You know, like it's so disingenuous how they're doing this, right? It's crazy.
Week after like the Switch was dropped, like, hey, there's a more powerful Switch coming relatively soon. And we found out.
Yeah, the Wii U too. Yeah, I remember that. Like the NX. Like it was never called the Wii U 2. It was like the NX, right? In the NX days, I'm sure you could like go on like Player Essence or whatever and like see what these people were saying. But like, yeah, like with the NX, like they were talking about how it had to be a super powerful home console, how it had to like have a detachable Samus Aran head that would suck your dick. Like they were talking about like all this crazy shit. And in the end, like when it was becoming apparent that like the hybrid thing was the focus, like they were angry about it. They were really upset, and it was pretty clear that was the direction that Nintendo was going in. But like they were in denial about it up until like that pre-reveal event in October of 2016, right? Like I remember how upset Player Essence was like on stream. I watched this live of just how upset he was when he realized it was going to be like a handheld focused thing with like the hybrid nature of it, like how it wasn't going to be super powerful. Like that was they were coping and seething for a long time after that. And like even after the Switch came out, like there was a lot of talk about how it was going to fail. Like I don't think people like admitted the Switch was successful until after Mario Odyssey came out in like maybe mid 2018, 2019 maybe, when it was becoming like undeniable that it was like the most popular console on the market. But
that there was supposed to be a Switch Pro. It never happened due to supply chain issues, but
no, I talked about that. No. Okay, I raged about the Muppet. I actually already talked. I made fun of the Muppet for talking about that conspiracy that it was going to happen, but like, oh, chip shortages. No. 100% no. Like, you need to stop. That is a complete blatant lie. Like, I don't believe that at all. Like,
there's a more powerful Switch coming relatively soon. And we found out that
Yeah. It was the Wii 2, right? That was, it was like the Wii HD, they called it, like the Wii days, right? Nintendo needs to have a super powerful Wii so it can run all these third-party games. And that's actually what Nintendo did that time. Like, people don't understand that that's what went wrong with Wii U, was that Nintendo was like, okay, we're going to do the exact same thing, but we're gonna like cater to third parties. So that was actually what happened with the Wii U. When like they first showed it off, they were demonstrating like all the critically acclaimed third party titles of the era, right? They got exclusivity deals with Ubisoft, who were big at the time. You know, they got like Call of Duty on there, they got Mass Effect on there, they got like Batman Arkham City, and like the same people who were like begging for these games on Nintendo console to begin with were just like, I already played those games on better hardware. So like, that was why the Wii U didn't do well initially, was because they were relying on third parties to like bring their A game. They catered to the third parties and they just didn't do it, right? And they never made that mistake again. I think that's a big reason why the Switch has been so successful, is that they haven't tried catering to third parties at all. Like, it's crazy how like GTA 5 and like Call of Duty still haven't come out on the platform. And I imagine it's because like Nintendo is making no effort to bring them over. And honestly, I think that's well deserved. Honestly, like I think we really need to like move past Grand Theft Auto and Call of Duty as like and Resident Evil as like must-haves for a console, because they're just not like they're just not that interesting. Like I think Nintendo is actually making a really good decision in not having them on Nintendo consoles, because it creates like a really interesting family safe brand. I think that's a good decision on their part.
There was supposed to be a Switch Pro. It never happened due to supply chain issues, but essentially the Switch OLED was supposed to be the Switch Pro from what.
Yeah, that's the narrative that they'll go with, was that like the Switch Pro was supposed to exist, but because of chip shortages, Nintendo just changed their plans and just released a Switch revision instead, which isn't how this works at all. Like the entire narrative is like just completely pants on head retarded. But they're like seriously trying to paint this shit. Like they did this with like Pokemon Stars and stuff like that too. Projects that never existed, Star Fox Grand Prix. Like they just make up narratives until justifying it until people like forget about it. Like now these days you'll see people like openly acknowledge like what happened with Star Fox Grand Prix, where the fake leak came out, and then like Rogers Base made a logo for it. It was like a fan made logo, and then like people used it as if it was like a real like in-house developed thing to like prove the game existed. And then they said it was like Starlink all along, which is like just dumb. But
what I've heard, we are now at a time where the original Switch, with its very dated Tegra X1 processor in there, is showing its age. And
how Tears of the Kingdom is more technologically advanced than any other game on the market. Like, just compare it to Baldur's Gate 3 and Hogwarts Legacy, and you'll see how much more the game accomplishes on that piece of hardware, right? Like, it is insane what the Switch is capable of. And it is insane that this guy keeps denying this.
With all these other PC-like, Switch-like consoles, like the ROG Ally, the Steam Deck OLED, and the list goes on and on and on and on. Yes, it's time for Nintendo to release new hardware.
How many of those competitors are successful, Rich? How many units have the Steam Deck sold? Like, is it anywhere near what the Switch has sold? Like, I actually just looked this up. I know exactly how much the Steam Deck, the most viable Nintendo Switch competitor on the market, has sold. Like, I can tell you right now that it sold 3 million units, right? Like it sold like twice as much as the Virtual Boy, like it sold less than the Wii U. Okay. Like that's how bad the Steam Deck is doing right now. And for some inexplicable reason, like, the people who have spent like the past several years shilling for the Steam Deck, people like Rich, like they don't want to admit it. Like they'll openly make videos calling the Steam Deck like the most important product since the iPhone. But like in reality, the hardware isn't viable. It's not quality. There's no reason to own one. Like you're just better off getting a gaming PC. Like even if you like gaming PC, like if you want to own a gaming PC, like you would just own a gaming PC. Like what value does the Steam Deck bring? Like a handheld PC that can't play Nintendo games. Like you're better off just getting a Switch. Right? Like both of those options would be superior to a Steam Deck. But like they have to flex on Nintendo somehow. So they have to like try and pretend the Steam Deck is a lot more viable than it really is. Like it's crazy. It's kind of like what they do with Baldur's Gate 3, with like they're trying to gaslight you into saying the game is sold like 34 million units when that's not fucking true at all.
And we're getting hints that that's actually going to happen. And boy, are they big hints, and boy, are they big leaks. One of those big leaks is that Nintendo is not selling physical copies of these games at certain retailers anymore, which is usually a
hang on.
One of those big leaks is that Nintendo is not selling physical copies of these games at certain retailers anymore, which is usually
they're older games that like have sequels or other like it's normal for Nintendo games to go out of print. It's normal for games in general to go out of print. Like they all do. Like every game stops being sold in retailers at retailers eventually. Like it's a normal thing. And yet people are trying to paint this as some kind of conspiracy. Like what's happening, I think this is very apparent, is that a lot of these games are going out of print, and Nintendo's going to bring back like Nintendo Selects or like a, some kind of player's choice or like the budget re-releases of these games to sell them at like at like $20, right? So like, to get people who otherwise would never have played them to try them, right? Like I think that's what they're going to do. Like it has nothing to do with Switch 2. Like that's just a nonsense conspiracy, but like it's crazy like the lengths that these people will go to try and paint the narrative.
Usually a fairly big sign when, especially with this list that they have here, that Nintendo is looking to move on from their current hardware. Now, these are games that are no longer going to be sold by Amazon, Walmart, Target, or GameStop. So these are big retailers. Well, maybe not GameStop as much anymore.
Oh, man, I was about to say.
But big retailers, and we can include GameStop, are no longer selling all of these titles. It's not a huge list, but it's big enough, so I'll read them all to you. Paper Mario, The Origami King, Donkey Kong Country, Tropical Freeze, The Legend of Zelda, Link's Awakening, the 2019 remake, which is really well done. Pikmin 3 Deluxe, Metroid Dread, Kirby Star Allies, Xenoblade Chronicles 2, New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe. I actually like that game.
I think Xenoblade's been out of print for a while. Like I think they did a handful of reprints when Pyra came to Smash, but like it's been out of print for a while. Like this isn't unusual. Like it's just such a
Fire Emblem Three Houses, Fire Emblem Engage, Yoshi's Crafted World, WarioWare, get it together, goddammit! Nintendo Switch Sports, Super Mario Odyssey. Man, I remember when that game was about to be released. Time flies. Splatoon 2, Super Mario Maker 2, and Mario Strikers Battle League. And I'll just say it the other way to aggravate people. Mario Strikers Battle League, because I grew up saying Mario my entire life, and you can deal with it. I'm Italian, and I have people in my family that even say Mario. So it's a me, Mario. Leave your complaints in the comments section below, because I know you will. But here is where things get delicious. And a lot of the news here is good about the Switch 2, meaning specs anyway. A lot of these Switch 2 spec rumors I'm very happy about, except for one thing. As my one of my fingers accidentally clicked an ad in the article, and now I'm seeing a muscular man on my screen. But one thing here is a little bit concerning. Everything else I'm okay with. Even something that other YouTubers and people are concerned about, I don't think is a big deal, at least yet. There's something else that bothers me quite a bit, though. But everything else here, I'm actually excited for these specs that I'm hearing. Let's go. Now, again, as I always say, take these rumors with the tiniest grain of microscopic salt that you could possibly find, because they're still rumors. A lot of these end up being bullcrap. There ends up being a lot of truth, too. And like I always say, it fascinates me, because in the end, you get to look back and see, man, this person was on point. They really knew what their leaks were valid, and then this other person or this other forum post was a pile of crap. But some of this stuff I hope does come true, and one key thing here is like, Nintendo, it's such a Nintendo thing to do. Anyway, these are the rumored specs that we're getting right now, and one of them I didn't expect Nintendo to do, But if it's true and it's more than a rumor, I am going to do things to this bird I shouldn't do. This comes from essentiallysports.com. I'll read it to you, then we'll discuss. Also, shout out to Kotaku for having the list of defunct physical games that are no longer being sold by stores. A Redditor recently dropped a post on the social media platform. The individual, known as Roha Top, presented a link to a Taiwanese economic forum. According to the user, the news platform reportedly revealed early details on Nintendo Switch 2's storage, RAM capacity, and display refresh rate. Per the rumored information from a translated version on the forum's report, also keep in mind it's translated to add another layer to misinformation here that's possible, the Nintendo Switch 2 will have a 120 hertz refresh rate display. As a person who's been using the ROG Ally, and especially if you put it at 720p, you could get a lot of games to run.
Is he like being paid by the ROG Ally people? Because I can't imagine that, like, no.
120 hertz. These smooth.
Like, he brings it up way too often for it to be a coincidence.
Smoothness is delicious when it comes to gaming. On phones, honestly, yeah, it's cool to have 120 hertz refresh rate. 120 hertz will get to enjoy games at a smooth frame rate. Thank you, Essentially Sports. That's kind of what a higher refresh rate means, but okay. Plus, the battery life is expected to improve greatly compared to the existing Switch model. So we're getting a high refresh rate screen. Wonder if it's going to be 720p or 1080p. I would be okay with 720p, so long as it's a good, solid, pretty panel. And if anything, it would be easier to get games to run at 120 hertz on a mobile SoC system on a chip with a lower resolution screen.
I thought he wanted like 1080p minimum, whatever.
And if it's a 1080p inside, this would be pretty awesome. But let's continue here with other specs that have been leaked. Now, they say that the current processor inside of the Nintendo Switch will be replaced with a more powerful one from NVIDIA. That narrows it down, and that's something. Yeah, here's our next-gen console with the same performance. Hope you enjoy it. That would be a bad idea, and it's a fairly obvious thing. They're going to upgrade the guts of the Switch 2, but whatever, they said it here. Now, a lot of people I see concerned about this, and yes, a couple years into the life cycle, I think it could be a bottleneck, is that the next-gen Switch, the Switch 2, is only going to have 8 gigabytes of RAM. But keep in mind that the Xbox Series S, which is considered...
Okay, this is such a boring video. Like, he's not saying anything. Okay, we're gonna...
Asian men, they are full of rage. A third-party company released the Switch 2 release date. Skip it up and that up. Do you like live streams? Oh, you do? The description. Hey, and I make music. There's another. Check out my music channel featuring men. So add a device you put on the original PlayStation because it had a serial port on the back called Game Shark, and what it essentially did is it allowed you to put cheat codes.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, I was wondering. Okay, so I actually looked into this. Okay, we're not going to react to the video because I've actually looked into the situation. Yeah, what seems to be happening is that Game Shark, the notorious cheating company that Nintendo hated in the 90s, they're trying to make a comeback. And the thing they're trying to do is, in order to get people to talk about them, is by claiming they have information on Switch 2. Now, there's no reason that, like, Game Shark would have any knowledge of the Switch 2 because, like, you know, they're an exploit company. But, like, people are seriously taking this, like, seriously, as if, like, this is a company that would have any, like, be working with Nintendo or have any knowledge of it or anything. Like, it's more of a degenerate than Rick. No, like there is no way. Oh, okay, chat. Like, is ReviewTechUSA more of a degenerate than Nick Rekieta? Like, I can't imagine he is. Like, I legit don't think so. Like, I am 100% sure that Nick Rekieta is more of a degenerate than ReviewTechUSA. Right? Like, I just can't. No. Like, you are really underestimating how much of a degenerate Ricada actually is if you genuinely think that. Like, no. Bro, like, I could show you, like, okay, the worst Rich has ever done, like, okay, Rich has done, like, shirtless streams before. Okay, that is, like, bottom tier trashy shit. Okay, that's bad. But, like, Ricada did the thought stream. Like, that by itself is, like, worse than, like, anything Rich has ever done. Like, I can't think of anything that Rich has done that's, like, more, like, ridiculous than the thought stream. Nintendo Prime? Yeah, I was actually I was gonna do RGT 85 next, but I think yeah, I noticed Nintendo Prime. I'm mostly familiar with ReviewTechUSA, which is why I wanted to start with him, but okay, Nintendo Prime and RGT 85. And I think we're gonna look at like Nintendo in general and see if like anybody is anybody else there's to talk about. Yeah, the release date linked. Yeah, Golden Sun is out, which is interesting. My dad works at Nintendo. Wait, what's this?
My dad works at Nintendo, is what this kid was able to say before he got his dad fired. In 2014, fans were ready for the new Super Smash Bros. Game releasing on Nintendo.
Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, I forgot that happened. That like Smash 4's roster was leaked because of that kid. Oof. Oof. Yeah, that's something that like these leakers don't talk about is that like the real legit leaks get people fired. You know, like that's something they never conveniently. That's something they always conveniently kind of leave out when it comes to these discussions. That like if these leaks were true, people would be getting axed. You would be seeing firings. Like you would be seeing shit happen. Like you can't talk about like the inner workings at Nintendo like that way. Like Chris Pratt, that a guy who was talking about Sakurai on an interview, right? Like that guy got fired for the shit he was saying about like what it was like to work on Smash Bros and stuff like that. He didn't talk about like the stuff he really wasn't supposed to talk about, but like he went way too personal about it, right? And it kind of made Sakurai look bad. Like it created like negative publicity for the brand, right? So yeah, like that in and of itself is why you shouldn't take these leaks seriously. Is that like if they were real, we would be hearing about firings. We would be hearing about like pushback. We would be hearing about like Nintendo shutting it down. But that simply isn't happening because these stories have no credibility to them, right? Like people don't even remember this. People don't even remember this. Where uh what was it? Uh what was I gonna say? Uh yeah, Violet, right? Violet's voice actor, the male voice for Violet in Fire Emblem Three Houses, like he confirmed when he was announced as the role that like, oh, by the way, I'm in Smash. This was way before the character came out in Smash Ultimate, but he got fired for that and replaced like immediately. And people did damage control for it. Like Nintendo released shills on the internet to like say that he was just trolling and that he's always done stuff like this. But in reality, he was like being honest. But um, most people completely forgot that ever happened. That like a legit Nintendo leak like occurred in that instance with that specific individual. But it's not something that people remember or talk about, even though it was true. Uh, okay, but let's see. Oh, that's the wrong. Okay, Nintendo Prime. I'm not familiar with this channel. Let's see. Release date leaked. Yeah, look at this. This is like the average Pretendo channel right now. Nintendo Switch 2 full tech leaks just leaked. Release date just leaked. Yeah, Switch 2. A Nintendo Direct is on its way. We all knew that. Like, I was talking about that. They've been having Directs in February forever. Nintendo Direct. I mean, I don't know if I want to react to this because, like, I'm sure it's the same thing we've already heard about, like, the Switch 2 and, like, how GameShark totally knows about it or whatever. Huge specs. But yeah, this is laughable. I can totally see where you're coming from and why you would be annoyed by this. Like, they're all like this. Like, they all just, like, ramble about, like, oh, it's going to be so great, guys. Or, like, alternatively, oh, it's going to be so terrible, guys. It's all just clickbait. They don't know anything. It's embarrassing. Yeah, big report on Nintendo Switch 2. Yeah, ever since the Switch 2 dropped. Look at this. Oh, he has a logo for it and everything. Ah, man, really? Wow, how many video? Wow, how many videos of this did he upload? Big update for Nintendo Switch 2. Nintendo Switch 2 to be revealed this month. Oh man, I forgot they were pushing that narrative. This new Nintendo Switch 2 feature is awesome. Okay, we gotta see this. This huge Nintendo Switch 2 feature just got fascinating. Several game developers confirmed Nintendo Switch 2 is coming to 2024. Like, did they? Did a Nintendo Switch 2 commercial just get filmed? Huge Nintendo Switch remasters coming to Nintendo Switch 2? Like, what? Nintendo's worst nightmare just arrived. Yeah, no, these flashcards are never going to be that big of a deal because Nintendo has. I'm sure all you would have to do is just release an update that could brick them. I don't think there's. I don't think it's really something that'll be take off in the mainstream. I can tell you that like they don't last very long is the issue. They're just not as reliable as real cartridges. So like anybody serious about games is just gonna default to buying physical or digital. Like there's no reason for these flashcards, right? Like I think the big selling point was that like, oh, you can switch between games on the fly, but like you can already do that with digital. Like, okay. Like I really don't think that like piracy is gonna have much of a place going forward because the narrative back in the day was that like, oh, they don't have these games in print anymore. But like, first of all, they do. But like, second of all, it's becoming more and more easy to accessible to get a hold of them, right? Like, digital distribution is easier than piracy. Like, it just feels as if pirates are just gonna be struggling against the service that's just better than what they have. Yeah. Nintendo may be launching two new systems next year. Oh, so wait. One Nintendo Switch isn't enough, so they're gonna release two? Let's see. Yeah, what a joke. That is okay, we're gonna watch this one video. That's the one that stuck out to me. Call Nintendo DBDR because right now it's over for Switch 1. DBDR, oh man, that is an interesting personality. Like I I have such a weird relationship with black-pilled individuals because like I just kind of laugh at them because I don't take anything they say seriously at all. It's weird because like I mentioned this on a comment section when I talked about DBDR and like my views on him. Like it's really weird seeing these people pretend they have hard lives, pretend that they're struggling and that like nobody cares about them and stuff like that when clearly that's not the case. Like he's being invited out to places, he's hanging out with friends, he's like he still talks to that girl he liked in high school, right? He went out to a bar with her, right? Like, like all he can do is just whine about like, oh, life is so hard. I don't have a girlfriend. Like, what about the stuff you do have, bro? Like, like you talk you I think I saw a video where he claimed he was talking to his like family and stuff like that. Like what about them? You know, like bro, like plenty of people don't have families, you know. Plenty of people spent their holidays alone, you know. Plenty of people you know have less than you do. What about them? You know, like it's like I don't think his life is that bad, and yet somehow he has this mindset that like he just obsessively just just complains about everything and just comes off like a little bitch. You know, it's crazy. Like I yeah, I just don't respect him at all.
Day of 2024, we are continuing to talk and go on this journey with Nintendo Switch 2 because another thing
Real Chad we got here, huh?
has cropped up that potentially leads to us discovering a primary core feature for Nintendo Switch 2. Now, this isn't your typical, like, oh, it's a rumor and someone's throwing that out there. This actually is, well, it comes from a patent. Now, the big thing when we're talking about
It might not be on the Switch 2. It's like I like the thing about patents, like they take years to surface, right? I think we were seeing patents for like the hybrid Switch for like what since what like 2015. Like it sometimes takes like a long while for this stuff to kind of surface. So I don't know. It's just okay. Well, we might as well watch the video.
patents from Nintendo is that we need to keep Nintendo's own words on patents last year. Furukawa commented on people talking about patents, saying he obviously knows when they have a patent go public and get published that it's going to be talked about. But he wanted to note that when a patent's put out there, whatever is in that patent isn't exactly what Nintendo is going to do. So he wasn't saying that there isn't a feature that could be in a patent that won't be used. It just whatever. He said Nintendo patents touch controls that are incorporated into the screen and the responsiveness and tactile sensation of conventional controls thanks to a system of electrodes. Do you think this could be an innovation for Switch 2? Now, that might sound scary, like
They're bringing back touch controls? Okay, that's interesting. Well, this is a patent, so I don't think this is really anything I want to talk about. We'll wait until it actually becomes like actual technology. But yeah, that's interesting. That's something I've been wanting to see come back for a while now, to see touch controls come back. I mean, they never really went away, but like, they need to be more prevalent. Same with like motion controls, I think.
So as crazy as it is to
Let's see. Yeah, it's the same thing we've seen already. Yeah. Yeah, there are definitely things to talk about here. But it's like, yeah, we covered everything. Like they're all just parroting each other. They're all using each other for credibility. So like we just went through like 4 ReviewTechUSA videos. Like RGT is going to cover the same material. You know, Nintendo Prime is going to cover the same material. I think I'm going to stop here honestly because there's just nothing more to discuss on about this topic. Is that like, yeah, none of these leaks are credible at all. Like none of these YouTubers are credible. None of these Twitter users are credible. Like there's just nothing. There's just nothing there, honestly. It's just a complete joke. So, with that in mind, what are we going to see in the near future? Well, we're going to see these people double down on this. Like, they're going to keep talking about these fake news outlets while ignoring actual games, right? They're not going to talk about Prince of Persia. They're not going to talk about Another Code. They're not going to talk about Mario vs. DK. They're not going to talk about, like, the Apollo Justice trilogy or, like, Under Night in Birth or anything else that's coming out in the next 2 months. Like, for the next 2 months, it's entirely going to be about Switch 2. And then, like, at some point, like, I think Nintendo's having, like, an investor meeting or something in February. Like, they're going to have a Nintendo Direct. It's going to be obvious that, like, Switch is going to continue to be supported well into 2025, right? There's going to be some major announcement or there's going to be some bombshell. Or there's going to be something that comes out. And it's going to be difficult to keep pretending that the Switch 2 is coming out in, like, September or whatever. So a lot of these guys are gonna pivot and try to say that like not releasing a Switch 2 is a mistake, that Nintendo doesn't know what they're doing, that they're gonna keep declining, that like PlayStation 5 is gonna eclipse them, that they're gonna lose out, and then like these games actually come out and they're all really successful, right? Nintendo makes a ton of money, and these guys just kind of ignore what's happening, just like they ignored the success of Super Mario Bros. Wonder, just like they ignored Pokemon, just like they ignored Tears of the Kingdom. Like they're just gonna like bend over backwards and try to convince you that the Switch is like on the decline, right? When in reality it's doing perfectly well for itself, right? Like I am very very interested in seeing what happens after that. Like what I anticipate is going to happen is that they're going to say that Switch 2 was like delayed to fix some problems and they're going to release it in like March 2025 instead. Like I imagine, unless Nintendo specifically says otherwise, that that's going to be their new date for the release of the Switch 2. And I'll be honest, I expect it'll be pushed back further than that. The narrative will keep moving back until we actually get like hard confirmation about like new Nintendo hardware. And when the new Nintendo hardware arrives, we are going to see coping and seething. We are going to see people complain about like how it wasn't what they expected and how it's like a disappointment and how it won't be able to run GTA 6 or whatever. And then, yeah, and then it'll be interesting. Like, I do think this is a make or break it moment for Nintendo because I think, in theory, I think if they make like the new next console as successful as the Switch, that'll kind of dispel every notion that people have about like the Switch being a fluke, because that's the kind of thing that like these people are trying to lean in on, is that like, oh, the Switch, it was just a flash in the pan success, it's never going to be replicated, people are like moving on to PC, to mobile or whatever, like there are better platforms out there, like people won't want new Nintendo hardware, right? And I really think that's off base. Like, I really think that the next piece of Nintendo hardware, whatever it is going to be successful, that people are going to want it, that people are going to buy it, and the games are going to be successful on it. And I think the people who have been coping and seething since the 80s are going to be too old to keep doing it, right? This is a real problem that, like, ReviewTechUSA and Sean Malmstrom have, is that, like the narrative that the Switch, Nintendo is a company that's like struggled to stay competitive over the years. It's all gonna fall apart because like we've seen them succeed. We've seen them like put out classic game after classic game. You have people from like entire generations of people who love the company. Like it's gonna be increasingly difficult to like write off Nintendo as being like a company that's only for kids or whatever, right? Like it only has Mario, Zelda, and Pokemon. Like people haven't said that in years, and it's becoming more and more true all the time. Like that, the audience is just like the real gaming audience is on Nintendo hardware. Like I think in the future, like people will have gaming PCs, mobile, and Nintendo consoles because they all have like different things that like appeal to people, right? Like I think it's going to be kind of a normal thing, and as a result of that, I think it's going to become more and more uncommon for people to kind of write off Nintendo the way they have been doing over the past couple of decades, right? Like, and I do think this is the beginning of that. Like the fact that they can't like gaslight people into thinking Switch 2 like desperately needs to be replaced. I think that says a lot about the current state of this industry and like just how people like this aren't nearly as influential as they used to be. So I think going forward, we're going to see a lot more people push back against Review Tech USA and push back against